So, couple of things, everybody. First of all, most importantly, and unfortunately, chat is still broken. Because of course it is. Because no matter what, I can't get this fucking thing to work. And I don't understand it. So, in an ideal world, in a perfect world, I will be able to get this chat working. Now, I know you guys are still here, but the chat that's supposed to be over here, that's broken. That doesn't exist, which is kind of, sort of agitating. Just a little bit. Just a little frustrating. But, you know, whatever. Right? I'm going to do that just a little more like that. There we go. So I really wish I could get that chat working. I don't know why it's not. Anybody here who has experience with Streamlabs OBS, who knows why the chat just doesn't work anymore for some reason, please let me know. I would certainly love to find out why. Because... Oh, there we are. Hello, chat. I see you are working now. That's good. I'm glad. Okay, how's everybody doing today? I know that this is not what I normally do, but I've said this 1,000 times. I don't normally stream on X day or Y day. I'm done doing that. I'm done doing that. The new rule is this: I stream when it is expedient for me to, because I don't have time to do an edited video. Anywho, whew. So how are you guys doing today? I know that it is Friday, it is the end of most people's weeks, and I know that we have had one hell of a week so far. All kinds of interesting things have been happening, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. At least one of these things is going to be an interesting thing. It is from a Prophet Mark Taylor, who is talking with a Christopher McDonald about a deep state conspiracy, which, you know. Also going to be talking about the recent Supreme Court ruling that basically says that you cannot be fired for being LGBTQ. Apparently there is a person who thinks that that is incredibly immoral, and it's not Ben Shapiro. Strangely enough. So, hopefully you guys are ready for a treat of some kind. I don't know if the treat is going to be bitter, cinnamon, or if it's just going to be arsenic that just happens to be flavored. We'll find out. So, that said, I want to thank Lee Bryan for the $2 super chat. This is a shameless plug for my subreddit, anti-NIFB. We also have a €5 one from Second Best Bob. I'm just going to bed. We'll catch up tomorrow. Cool! Yeah, Katie, I know. I live in an at-will state. I was fired for lack of empathy. I understand. So, let's take a look at what we got here. And let us switch over to here, which of course has... Hey, that chat is working again! What a concept. What a concept. Ah! I need to actually switch Nightbot over. Nightbot is still screaming about everything that was going on Hammered Out, and that is not what we need to be doing here. So we disable that one. Disable that one. Disable that one. Enable this one. Enable this one. I believe... those two should be fine. Right? I think that should be good. Okay. Wait, does that mean I have... Please don't tell me that means that I have to edit this. Does my description have everything from before? No, it does not. Cool. I do not have to edit things. Woo! Excellent. Saved by the bell. Yes. Is there a bell? Speaking of HO, will you ever have Anti-Citizen X on as a guest? I don't even know who Anti-Citizen X is. So I have no idea. I have no idea who this person is. Also, this chat still seems to be broken, so we're gonna fix that real quick by putting a functional chat here, and then getting rid of that one. There you go. There, a chat we can all agree on, a chat that exists, because the other one just didn't. Okay. Yeah, I know, it said chat isn't working again, but now it's working. Now it is working. Soundwave doesn't like the chat. Alright, so that said, let's take a look at these dudes from Right Wing Watch. I'm sure that they have some interesting things to tell us today. So, let's take a listen. Ah, and then it breaks. Isn't that sweet? It breaks. How did it break? What the heck? Okay, you know what? That's fine. That's fine. You wanna know why it's fine? It's fine because I came prepared. Even if that broke. And I came prepared because I actually have the video that I am responding to right here. Because even if it breaks, this is why we make sure that we've got everything ready and prepared. Alright? So give me a second. Pull this over here, because apparently doing it the way I want to isn't going to work. So we just got to pop this up here. And let's go.
It is all about keeping the narrative focused on a civil war, a bunch of garbage that's been going on. Like that, we've had, what, 5 hangings now?
Yeah.
Public hanging, but they found bodies hanging.
Okay, so for those who don't know, we have had multiple sightings of hangings in the United States since the George Floyd protests. So, 5 men hanging. I'm going to go ahead and grab the fact check on this real quick. So, as of right now, from what I can tell, it's not that we've had 5 hangings. Apparently, there have been 3 confirmed hangings. A 4th hanging was supposed to be a Latino who was found dead hanging from a tree. This, though, was apparently not there. And then apparently the 5th incident that is similar to all of these are from social media posts. But a lot of them are linking to an older death, such as T.D. Gully in 2019, or mistook recent gun deaths for hangings, such as the death of Rayshard Brooks. But it does seem to be that 3 of these have in fact been hangings, though the authorities have said that they suspect no foul play at all. The first one's name was Robert Fuller. He was found dead hanging from a tree in California. Local authorities initially ruled that Fuller's death was a suicide, but the family of the 24-year-old urged authorities to open an investigation into the case. Though Fuller's death made national news, social media claimed that several similar incidents of investigators declaring such deaths as suicides have been occurring since the death of George Floyd. The posts appear to be referring to Robert Fuller, Malcolm Harsh, and Dominique Alexander. These are the 3 that have hung and that the authorities are currently attempting to say this is all suicide, there's nothing to look into. Now, if you happen to not be living under a rock and you know about the current socio-political environment of the United States, what would this look like to you? There's 2 things it can be if we were to attach this to the current stuff that's going on right now. If we said that these are suicides, one of the factors could easily be the socio-political environment in the states right now. how everything's bubbled up to the forefront. There are some people who can't take it when stuff like this happens and go. However, alternatively, if we were to accept what the families seem to believe, that this was not in fact a suicide, what instead would this look like? This would look like a lynching. This would be a literal lynching of African Americans on American soil, which is, of course, a historical issue. And I say that because there has been much like how guillotines are associated with killing rich nobles in France, lynching is deeply racially associated with killing black slaves here in America. So, that's the reason why this is kind of important. This isn't just something to go, oh, well, if they just killed themselves by suicide and hanging, blah, 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 blah. It's not a thing to just sweep under the rug. So, let's continue.
Terrible.
Please tell me that's not... give me a break. We know that's deep state related.
They say they know it's deep state related. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard the deep state conspiracy several times. But, just in case you haven't, in the United States, we had this deep state conspiracy that people like Alex Jones like to prop up. It suggests that there's a collusion within the United States political system and a hidden government within the legitimately elected government that actually pushes everything that goes on within the United States. Now, this hidden government is sometimes referred to, depending on who you are, it can refer to a lot of things. There are some people who will say, well, the deep state are the elites. They're the people running the business. Well, then who are the elites? Well, if you ask somebody like, say, a Nicholas Fuentes, they're going to say that the elites are Jewish people. There's a Jewish cabal that runs the government. If you ask somebody like David Icke, he's going to say that it's fucking reptilian people or some shit. Because, of course he is. Even though that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, there are people who are still going to latch onto that because they desperately need to live in a style of some kind of false reality. The term was originally coined to a relatively invisible state apparatus in Turkey. It was composed of high-level elements within intelligence services, military security, and judiciary, and organized crime, and similar alleged networks in other countries, including Egypt, Ukraine, Spain, Colombia, Italy, Israel, and many others. So this is not a thing that has never existed before. The idea of a shadow government existing behind a government is not a new thing, and it has been a thing that has been seen in other countries. The question, though, is there a deep state thing in regards to these hangings? At least that's what Prophet Mark Taylor is trying to push. Let's continue to listen to what he says, and let's take the definition we've looked at for deep state, as that conspiracy exists, and see if it actually functions in regards to this.
That's pushing some of this stuff to try to drive the narrative. Now, some of them have been maybe suicides, but trying to martyr themselves because they know what it's going to do.
All right. So, we're back to that suicide thing. But, David Thompson, I know lynching wasn't just slaves, just like guillotine wasn't just used for nobles. I didn't say it was just used for that. I'm pointing out that there is a historical precedent for this. So, wait a minute. Wait a minute. What we have here is somebody trying to say that, well, what if some of these people, as opposed to committing suicide because the socio-political environment around them is too much to handle, what if they committed suicide in order to push a narrative? Now, let's ignore the fact that this doesn't generally happen all that often. Let's just ignore that for a second there. What do you think? Let's just say that you're a random-ass person on the internet, right? Just a random Joe Schmo nobody. What would have to go on in your mind for you to go the world's a bad place. But if I hang myself, it'll change. Now, if that sounds stupid, if that sounds like something that doesn't actually make sense, it's because it doesn't. Nobody is, as far as I can tell, nobody is going out and committing suicide in this manner right now in order to send a message or change the world. Now, there is a thing that is done to send a message, and that is an execution. That's a thing that I have seen done in order to send a message. So, which is more likely? If we're just taking a lynching, and we're just taking not even suicide because they couldn't handle the socio-political environment, or even a home environment, or just a neighborhood environment, it's either execution by racists or whatever you want to say. It could be anything, but given the current environment, I could definitely see it being racially motivated. Mark Taylor, though, is of the opinion that it must be a deep state conspiracy, and it could also be suicides in order to change a media narrative. This is the type of narrative that somebody speaks when they haven't existed in reality for a while. At least, that would be my take on it. I don't know much about Mark Taylor, though I'm sure I could find out some right now. But that does not seem to be the opinion of somebody who has existed in reality for a decent bit of time. Ah! I see. A prophecy update. 6/18/2020. Okay, so he's one of those people who thinks that everything has to do with the biblical prophecy as well. That's okay. Okay, what about your history, Mark? Let's take a look at that real quick. Let's take a look at that real quick. Let's see. All right. That is not who I'm looking for. Weird. I'm trying to see if I can find this guy, but it seems like Mark Taylor is such a common name. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see here. Is this the guy I'm thinking of? No. Okay. Well, I guess I'm not going to worry about trying to dig into him too terribly much. Mainly because it's going to take enough time to actually try to figure that shit out. I might end up doing a video after I've had time to actually sit down and research him thoroughly, but right now I'm not going to do the same shit that I did when I covered Candace Owens, because dealing with her history was an absolute nightmare. But, point being, apparently in Mark Taylor's world, this is either a deep state conspiracy, or suicides as part of a deep state conspiracy in order to change a media narrative. The idea of racists existing in his world killing minorities apparently doesn't factor in. And I don't know how that very simple explanation doesn't factor in compared to these giant conspiracy theory ones. I don't understand how one is more likely than the other. I don't know if he knows how to use Occam's razor very well. So, pop back over
to this whole black-white thing, to try to start the civil unrest, to try to stoke the fires again. This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to keep this going through the election. Notice also the guy who killed George Floyd, they're talking about he may walk.
Right.
Wait. Wait, hold on. One sec. Derek Chauvin may walk? Where is that being said? Yeah, I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing that at all. Where the hell is he getting that information from? Like, what? Okay. Anyway, so apparently he thinks that people are committing suicide in order to make it to where the world around them will continue to be on fire. Does he think that the death of a single person is that important in and of itself? Because it took a lot of deaths for George Floyd's death to be a catalyst. It took a lot of boiling under the pot before that pressure plate exploded. This one death changes everything narrative ignores all of the bodies that stack up, that lead to a catalyst even being able to do that kind of damage. But okay. Apparently Mark Taylor thinks that people are committing suicide in order to keep riots going. That's... I don't even understand that. How you get to a point of delirium where that's the thought.
He may actually, the charges may get this. I don't know what they're talking about. I'm not saying he may walk completely, but
Wait, hold on. He may walk. The charges, I don't know what they're talking about. I don't, but he may walk. That's the sound somebody makes when they're pulling shit out of their ass. That is not what somebody says when they have when they've spent time actually researching a topic before they go into it. That's the blustering of pulling shit out your butt. And I get that he's done, like, live show stuff a lot, so I guess that this is just a habit. But I don't know. I don't understand that. That does not seem like the behavior of somebody who's being truthful.
they may be downgraded or whatever it is. But the point being is they're trying to stoke the fires all the way to the election. We have to be prepared to go the long haul with this, Chris. This is go longer than just the summer. This is going to go all the way to the election with this stuff.
Oh, I see. Mark Taylor, are you by chance a Trump supporter? Because I'm like 90% certain that you are. One sec. Oh, of course, there's a firefighter named Mark Taylor in the movie The Trump Prophecy. What the fuck? Okay. That convolutes research. That convolutes research quite a bunch. Of course, you can get the Trump Prophecies by Mark Taylor for $0 on Kindle. Mark Taylor's book. Okay, so you know what? Hold on. We're gonna Mark Taylor Trump Prophecy, and we're gonna do a Google image search. That's our guy, right? That's our mans? This guy right here? Oh, hold on. This guy right here, this is our mans? This is him? Okay, so let me get this straight. This guy is supposed to have a good enough head on his shoulders to understand deep state conspiracies, to figure out all on his lonesome that things might be suicides that were there to stoke the flames of rioting up until the point of the election. But he's also the guy behind the Trump prophecies. Okay. Okay. Do.
We are at war, and I'm glad you brought the charges up. Director Mike mentioned this last week. He's a lawyer, too. He's got legal background. He felt like that Ellison did this deliberately in the fact that they went for the murder 2, murder 1. You got to prove motive with that instead of just going for a basically aggravated manslaughter, which would have been an easy charge to prove in a court of law. And the reason that they're going to walk is the way the case is being presented. And as what I believe, and I think you would probably agree with this, it was all a setup by Ellison, this Muslim attorney general.
Wait, what? Let's see. Ellison, Muslim Attorney General. Why does it matter that he's Muslim? What does that change? Let's see here. Let's see. Who is Keith Ellison? In 1998, he was a college student. Let's go and pull this up so we can read together. Keith Ellison, the black Muslim leading the Floyd persecution, because of course we gotta just hit real hard there that this is definitely id poll. Definitely 10 out of 10. 10 out of 80 id poll. Okay, so let's see here. You have to organize rallies and spoke at a press conference to pressure the then Minnesota Attorney General to investigate the police officers who threw the stun grenade in an apartment while young black people pinned to the ground outside and shouted that there were old people inside. No police officer was ever charged for that incident. Now he's Minnesota's Attorney General and responsible for prosecuting the policeman charged with killing George Floyd, an African-American man, last month. As a top lawyer in the state, he's in the spotlight as the United States has been roiled by protests against police brutality targeted at the black community. The trial can be a challenge for Ellison, who's 56, who is detested by the far right for being too liberal and looked up to by his own supporters as someone who can deliver justice. Over the years, his identity has shifted. In high school, he was part of a band called the Deviants. In university, he defended the Nation of Islam's charismatic but controversial leader, Louis Farrakhan. Now, Nation of Islam is a bit of a problematic group. If memory serves, they actually qualify pretty heavily as a cult, but I could be wrong on that if somebody wants to verify. But let's see here. He was sworn in as Minnesota's Attorney General. Another controversy became ammunition for his Republican opponents and bogged down. His ex-girlfriend accused him of mistreating her. As the top public lawyer in Minnesota, Ellison has challenged President Donald Trump's anti-immigration stance and taken up cases, which likely would have been ignored by others. His detractors, like Republican Doug Worlow, who Wilson defeated in the Minnesota Attorney General race, accused him of being a lawyer of far-left special interests, as opposed to of far-right special interests. Okay. In response, said people elected me. They know that I have politics and that's going to influence. But, as a different than just charging, my responsibility is to defend the state. Okay, so I'm not seeing anything in there that's super contentious, except obviously the stuff about the Nation of Islam, but apparently they denounce him now? Real Lock, they've got issues, but have you had a bean pie? Oh my god. Okay. So, what else do they have to say here? Apparently they think that it's some kind of conspiracy with... Let's listen to that again just to see.
Presented. And as what I believe, and I think you would probably agree with this, it was all a setup by Ellison, this Muslim Attorney General, to do exactly what you just described to a T. Because when the guy does walk, how many hands can I get raised in the audience tonight that believes that Minnesota's probably to go up in smoke, and so is the country? We're going to have Antifa Part 2. We're going to have Act 2.
Antifa Part 2? Antifa Part 2. We barely even had a Part 1, fucker. Okay. Sure, why not? What does he mean by Antifa Part 2? I'm confused. I am very confused. Like, okay, so... His theory is that Antifa, we're going to have Antifa Part 2, because the Attorney General, who is a Muslim, maybe not necessarily that he's a Muslim, but who happens to be a Muslim, who he cares enough to mention, I guess I'll just say Christian for every lawyer I deal with, my Christian lawyer, apparently, Christopher McDonald is convinced that this Attorney General is going to purposefully fudge the prosecution on Derek Chauvin so that he can walk instead of getting justice, so that Minnesota can go up in smoke, so Antifa can take over the country. I would like a few ounces of whatever the fuck these guys take. Honestly and truly. I want to know what they take. I want to know how it gets them that fucked up. And I would certainly enjoy some of that. But yeah, no. Interesting theory. Is there any logic behind that, though? I don't think so. I don't. Because, again, first of all, these riots are not a thing that are constantly organized by Antifa. The conversation organized by Antifa by itself just sounds really weird. Next day, well, we're getting fucked up on conspiracy juice. Considering that Antifa, whenever anything is organized by any group that calls themselves Antifa, it's almost always small local organization, because there isn't a hegemony, there isn't a monolith, there's nothing like that, because it's not an organization. For him to think that all of this stuff is going to cascade down exactly that way is confusing. It's very confusing. I don't think there's anything else in here, right?
Of all this stuff.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's it there. I am more than a little confused. Like, I don't understand what kind of stuff you have to drink that gets you to this point where the easy explanation, the simple explanation for people getting hung, racists exist in the world, sometimes they kill people, sometimes they do it in a way that looks historically and politically expedient, as a way of sending a message. Lynching black men was a fairly problematic thing historically in the United States up until the 1930s. Lynching began about 100 years earlier than that, and it was mostly white men. But after we had a civil war, the amount of black men that were killed by lynching kind of exploded for a little while. And then it didn't die down until, again, we started getting to the 30s. Which means there's a certain sting to that. The idea that somebody would participate in doing that because they're a racist asshole doesn't escape me. And it probably shouldn't escape anybody. But apparently to people like Mark Taylor and Christopher here, the idea is not that these things likely were caused by racism or suicide. No, even the suicide has to be part of a deep state conspiracy if it is suicide. And the lynchings, if they are lynchings, are part of a deep state conspiracy to get Donald Trump out of office so they can get an attorney general to burn an entire state and then the country to the ground because he's Muslim. I just don't understand. And I'm exposed to this stuff enough to where maybe I should understand it. Maybe it should make sense to me. But it doesn't. As somebody who used to be a consumer of Alex Jones, who used to watch Zeitgeist more than once, who used to be a proponent of the loose change theory for 9/11 trutherism, this shit is starting to feel just wackadoo. Maybe I'll do a larger dissertation into Mark Taylor, because from what I'm seeing in the chat, it looks like there's a lot more going on with him that I need to be concerned about. So, what do we have next? Well, we have a YouTube video that was released about 3 days ago, and it is called How the Government Punished a Family Business for Sharing Their Beliefs. Now, if that doesn't sound like an attempt to shift a narrative, specifically so that the families are the victims, I don't know what is. So, let's play the video, and let's see what we can glean from this. It is from the Alliance Defending Freedom. Now, you guys know me. I like to know who is sending me my information. I like to know who is building this type of stuff for me. Who's building the video that I'm consuming. So, let's take a look at the Alliance Defending Freedom for a second here. They were founded by some 30 leaders of the Christian right. The Alliance Defending Freedom is a legal advocacy and training group that has supported the recriminalization of sexual acts between consenting LGBTQ adults in the United States and criminalization abroad. They have defended state-sanctioned sterilization of trans people abroad. Wait a minute. Now, hold on a second. Hold on a fucking second. You know, one of the arguments that I've heard from the right wing against trans people repeatedly? They're gonna be made infertile. That's bad. People need to be able to actually bear children the proper way, the way God intended. But those hormones, they strip them of that ability. Okay, so I've heard that a fucking bunch. So why does this advocacy group, quote, need to try to sterilize trans people. I thought you guys bitched that the hormones did that. Which is it? Oh my god, okay. They claim that there's a homosexual agenda because apparently none of these guys can live without a conspiracy. Why do you guys need a conspiracy so badly? Were you not loved as a... It was either you were not loved as a child, so you have to push your suffering out on everybody else, or you were beat up so much as a child that now that it's not happening anymore, you've got to pretend somebody's doing it all the time. Which is it? It's one of these two. But they claim that a homosexual agenda will destroy Christianity and society. They work to develop religious liberty legislation, which apparently means oppressing LGBTQ individuals, and case law that will allow the denial of goods and services to LGBTQ people on the basis of religion. What the fuck? What kind of hate-mongering organization do you have to be to engage in something like this? How is this actually defending freedom? This isn't freedom. This isn't the... You're not an alliance defending freedom if every single thing your organization stands for is anti-freedom. That's not how this works. And also, state-sanctioned sterilization? I'm sorry, but there is another type of state-sanctioned... I need to go over this way. Hi, chat. How are you doing? Hey, chat. Did you know that there is, in fact, a type of state-sanctioned sterilization that happened in another country? Not just this one. Oh, no, that shit happened in this country. In fact, actually... Hold on, chat. Give me a moment. Give me 1 second. You know that whole thing that was happening during the Red Square? Or the Red Scare? It can happen here. Hold on, let me find that. It Can Happen Here is a semi-satirical 1935 political novel by American author Sinclair Lewis. The novel was published during the heyday of fascism in Europe, which was reported by the Dorsey Thompson Lewis's wife. It Can Happen Here was a slogan that was touted a lot about... It was basically given to people would say that it can't happen here. In regards to fascism, Nazism, shit like that. They would say that it cannot happen here. And there's a lot of propaganda that happened as a result of this. Let's ignore the fact, and Godless Cranium actually did a good dissertation on this, that America actually was pretty close to Nazism before it entered World War II. We actually had a lot of organizations in the United States that agreed a lot with Nazis. But ignoring all that historical context, there is another state that has engaged in forced sterilization. Now, I'm pretty sure most of you are going to freak out and go, yeah, I got it, it's Nazi Germany! You're not wrong. You're not actually wrong. But, what if I told you that in 1907, the United States began its own eugenics programs? In fact, the first state to do this in 1907 was Indiana. It enacted its first sterilization legislation, followed closely by Washington, California, and Connecticut 2 years later. Sterilization rates across the country were relatively low. Yes, Growlith. Hello, girl. But In 1927, in the Supreme Court case Buck v. Bell, apparently forced sterilization of patients at a Virginia home for those who were seen to be at the case. I'm going to use a hard R slur. Apologies for that in advance, but the actual medical term at that time was mentally retarded. They pushed in 1927 for the forced sterilization of them because they did not want to pass those genes down. This is eugenics. This was not Nazi Germany eugenics. This was eugenics in the United States, on our soil, here, less than 100 years ago. And so when somebody says, and I've heard some people argue that stuff like this, over here, up there, can't happen here. No organization would succeed in doing these things here on United States soil. That stuff up there, that's already happened. That already fucking happened here. It happened 100 years ago. There's nothing saying it can't happen again. So if somebody tries to tell you that shit like that can't happen in your home, I'm sorry, it has, and it can. So, let's see here. In the words of the ADF, the Alliance Defending Freedom, allowing males to compete in the female category isn't fair, and it destroys girls' athletic opportunities. Well, again, let's ignore the fact that trans women are women, so there's no reason for them to even make that statement. It's not males competing in female categories, it's females competing against females. ADF legal counsel Christian Hakom refers to trans female athletes as male in ADF. That was in 2019, because of course it is. What else do we have in here that is interesting for these people? Because their history goes back a little bit. A quote from them in 2007, "In the end, those who profess to be gay or lesbian or who have otherwise slipped in and out of homosexual behavior, including cruising for anonymous partners, are people who succumb to a dangerous temptation." Again, this is fucking Christian Puritan work. So, this is not me trying to rail on the ADF for all the dumb shit they've done in the past. This is me pointing out that the ADF are the ones who worked on this lovely cartoon we're going to watch. Are you guys ready for that, by the way?
Should someone who believes that marriage is the union between one man and one woman be forbidden from earning a living?
That is an interesting question. That's a very interesting question. And on its own, if I were to just take that question, I would say, well, no, they're wrong, and we should be trying to educate them as to why they're wrong, but no, they shouldn't be disallowed from earning a living. That would be barbaric. That would be totalitarian. But hold on. Is that what's happened? Is that what's happened? And I'll give you a spoiler alert. No. But let's go on.
Surprising question, right? In America, everyone has civil rights, regardless of their beliefs. That goes for political beliefs, but also our religious and moral beliefs, including beliefs that go to the core of who we are and how to build our families and live our lives. But what if the government decided it didn't agree with your beliefs and it wanted to punish you by excluding you from making a living? Take the example of Steve Tennis, Country Mill Farms, and the city of East Lansing, Michigan. Running his family farm...
Okay, so I just want to point out a little
bit...
City
of East Lansing, Michigan.
What's going on here. Okay, so take a look at the family here. Right here. You see this family? Do you see how precious they are? Do you see how innocent they are? They're all smiling. They're happy. This one's got blonde hair, blue eyes. I'm sure that won't come up later. But if you take a look at this, there's a very obvious dichotomy here. This is the happy American family. This is the American dream. Everybody's doing just grand. And if you look over here, it's the corporate executives. the elites, the people in power. Now, I'm not going to tell them how to make effective propaganda. They seem to already fucking know how to do it. But let's take a look at the rest of this fun video.
Running his family farm isn't just Steve Tennis's way of making a living. It's his way of sharing the most important thing in his life, his love for God. It's this love that inspires him and his family to serve their neighbors. Steve's family has donated thousands of pounds of apples from their orchards to local food banks. They provide quality housing on their own farm next to their house for guest workers, and they've shared and lived out their faith as they've served their many customers and visitors at the farm. One way Steve expresses his love for God proved to be a problem with a few powerful people in the nearby city of East Lansing.
Remember what I said about the powerful elites thing? Look at them, right there. Powerful, rich, ready to attack the American family at their core. Okay, so I'm just going to stop doing that voice right now for fun. So, we've got a group of people here who are a family who are being framed as this is the perfect godly family. They donate to charity. They are just excellent people. These people have done no wrong. These people are basically Jesus. Look at those Pharisees over there. And that's not the exact comparison, but let's continue the video. My point here is that the setup for this so far, we've not been given any information yet, any like relevant information, but the setup so far has been that this is an completely innocent family who has done no wrong.
For 6 years, the Tennis family attended a farmer's market in East Lansing to sell their farm's produce. They loved providing fresh produce to people, and the people loved their organic fruit and vegetables.
Okay.
Year after year, the family was praised as a top vendor at the farmer's market, and the city invited them to return. One day, someone asked Steve on his farm's Facebook page to explain his views on marriage. He gave an honest answer consistent with his religious belief that marriage is a sacred union between one man and one woman. City officials, upon seeing this post, were offended.
All right, so let's begin with the dishonest framing here. This is beginning with city officials being offended, and that is the core problem. This isn't about city officials being offended and then suddenly, they decided to take away all of his rights and liberties. Let's take a look into the actual case. Let's see what actually happened. Okay. So, this guy's name, and I know that I looked this up earlier. So one sec, let me see where I actually put that information. Okay. So what actually happened here? Was it just a Facebook post? Well, that doesn't seem to be the case. So the person's name in here is
Who we are and how to build.
I thought I had all this stuff ready.
Running Tennis, Country.
Steve Tennis, Country Mill Farms. Okay. Now, I remember I had this set up, but apparently I forgot to have it ready. So that's me. That's my bad. All right. Country Mill Farms filed a religious freedom lawsuit against the city of East Lansing after the city refused them a license to vend at a city's farmers market, which gained social media attention. Okay, that's consistent with what the video shows so far. The city's license refusal followed the farm excluding same-sex couples to use their farm for weddings. Oh, that's a bit different. Wait a minute. Hold on. ADF guys, I thought it was just the big elites in the city getting upset that there was an offensive Facebook post. That's not what this looks like, though. In 2016, Steve Tennis, owner of Country Mill Farms, made a statement on Facebook stating that his belief in marriage should be between a man and a woman. According to Mayor Ruth Bayer, who was mayor pro tem at the time, Tennis said same-sex couples would not be allowed to rent out the orchard for weddings. Okay, now, let's talk about a little bit of the history with this family. This is not just them going, you can't use our yard for weddings, don't do that. No, they've used their yard and profited from having weddings on their property, which is actual, like, business land. This is not just personal home property. This is private business property at this point, owned by a personal person. This is the group of people who provide this service to straight couples. But they have publicly stated that they would not provide that service to same-sex couples. Now, in the chat, if you are here, and you understand some very basic shit, okay? You should be able to understand this. What is the difference between being born black and being born gay? Well, the answer to that is not really a whole lot, because you can't really change either of these. Even in the event that somebody comes out tomorrow with information that says, oh, well, nobody's born gay, but they become gay after the first 3 or 4 years due to extracurricular societal shit that happens around them. Okay, cool. Well, if you can control your environment at 3 or 4 years old, excellent. You are officially a superhero, but nobody can. So, because that's the case, the argument's null and void. Nobody chooses to be gay. Nobody chooses to be black. So, let's reframe this. If Steve Tennis had said that, oh, well, we don't like them black people having marriages on our farm. We don't like that. They're not like us. Do you see how yikesy that statement is? How absolutely, I don't want to say just cringeworthy because it's much more than that, but how bigoted a statement like that is. If you won't allow blacks to be on your property for a wedding, but you will allow whites to be, that's the same thing as allowing straights, but not gay people. So, let's see what else, or why the actual thing happened. Because it's not just city officials being offended, no. East Lansing has an anti-discrimination policy. This is a business policy that if you go into business in East Lansing, you agree to. This is a legal precedent that you have to agree to abide by if you are doing business in East Lansing. Okay. Tennis filed a motion to appeal to the refusal to vend in 2017, which was approved in September 2017, and Country Mills Farm was allowed to vend at the city's farmers market for the remainder of the produce season. In an interview of September 2019, former mayor said he felt the community agreed with him and that the fight was worth it, but I think we're committed as a community to inclusion and protecting everybody from discrimination. Okay. Non-jury trial is supposed to take place December 14th. Now, there is another thing that I read on this specifically, and I was doing my research for the video beforehand, that showed that not only had the city given this warning, very fairly, but on top of that, would you like to know how old the law is, this particular anti-discrimination law? Honey, what are you doing?
Does this have an HDMI thing in the back?
This one?
This monitor?
I don't think so. Not while I'm streaming, honey. You're not taking it while I'm streaming.
I'm not gonna take it while you're streaming. I'm looking.
You're looking?
I'm looking.
You're looking?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry if your TV moves.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna continue to yell and scream, I guess.
It does have an HDMI. Okay. So, I love you. When you're done, Aaron's getting this one.
Okay. Why?
So, they have a DVI and an HDMI in the back of their computer. We both run VGAs.
Okay.
I do not have a VGA port at all on the back of my PC.
And in order to run one of my things, she has to run either a VGA port, which she can't, or a monitor with a DVI port, or with an HDMI port.
Okay.
I'm getting both of this one's old monitors.
Because they like the look of the TV, and they wanted to replace the small monitor that I had.
Okay.
This has an HDMI cord,
Mm-hmm.
which she has an HDMI to DVI cord.
Mm-hmm.
So it works. So when you're done, we're taking this, losing it,
Okay.
repeating it.
Okay.
Fuck you.
As long as it's getting replaced
Yeah,
with a monitor.
yeah.
Okay.
You're getting my 1080p monitor.
Okay. Okay, cool. Well, that happened. All right, so would anybody like to know how old this anti-discrimination law is? Anybody? The one that East Lansing uses. I'm not going to pull it up right now because I remember I have this research done. March 7th, 1972. That's how old this is. So let's continue the video. Now that we know how old this anti-discrimination law is, and we know that it's not just a country, or it's not just a country bumpkin having beliefs and then the big bad state stepping in because they were offended by a Facebook post. Now that we've got that shit out of the way, clarified that poisoned well, let's continue.
City officials, upon seeing this post, were offended. They set out to banish Steve from the farmer's market.
They set out to banish him from the farmer's market. That'd be destroying an American dream right there. Bigotry and selling apples. America. No.
How? By creating a new rule that allowed them to punish Steve for expressing his religious views about what weddings he can celebrate on his family farm, which is located 22 miles outside the city.
So, a new rule. A new rule. Bear in mind, they were selling at the farmer's market in East Lansing. The city can tell him not to sell in the farmer's market in East Lansing. They are claiming it was a new rule. What is this new rule they're referring to? Because apparently the rule existed in the fucking 70s. This doesn't sound like it can possibly be a new rule. So what are they on about? Let's hear.
Of course, Steve answering a question on Facebook about his view of marriage has absolutely nothing to do with selling apples at the farmer's market.
But since these apples are produced at your business, which is the exact same business that rents its orchard where the apples are harvested, two couples only who are of opposite sexes or genders, since you only allow them, wouldn't that mean that these are actually pretty integrally correct? Blah, 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 blah. Integrally connected. These apples are in fact harvested from the exact same place that discriminates against gay people. This would be like saying, look, I bought my Nike shoes, okay? I bought them, and I bought them specifically from Walmart. It has nothing to do with child sweatshop labor. But the shoes that are sold at that Walmart came from a sweatshop in China, where outsourced exploitative labor was utilized in order in creating them. Wait a minute, hold on. But I thought that this had nothing to do with that. Except it does. Because literally, the place they used to discriminate against people is where this shit was harvested.
And Steve had always followed all market rules and always served everyone.
Except the anti-discrimination one.
Two things the city agrees with. The city adopted the rule for one reason, to penalize Steve for what he believed.
Nope. He can believe whatever he wants. Here, let me explain. Okay? Let's say I'm a McDonald's manager, right? And I don't like the gays. So, when I see two men kiss in my establishment, I kick them out because they are the gays, and I don't like the gays. Now, it's because, and when somebody says that has nothing to do with buying a burger, are you gonna walk into McDonald's and tell me that that two sausage lickers walking in has nothing to do with selling meat? And I can twist it in any fucking dumb shit way I can. I honestly, truly can. And if I do so, I'm basically just twisting and contorting around the fact that I am taking my establishment and I am making it a hostile place for a minority group. For no other reason than apparently a book told me to. That's, I guess. That's it. Like, that's the best reasoning that can be given by Mr. Racist McDonald's worker here. Like, at the end of the day, it has everything to do with it. If your orchard that is selling the apples at the farmer's market does exactly the thing that you do not allow for in your anti-discrimination policies, I'm sorry, these things are connected enough.
You see, Steve and his family are Catholic, and because they are Catholic, they believe that marriage is between a man and a woman.
Okay. See, I thought that Catholicism, at least not of the sedevacantism variety, had actually calmed down on the homophobia, but I guess they calmed down on the homophobia except where marriage is concerned. They specifically still do not like gay marriage. Okay. That's... okay. That's not the one. That's the one.
The same belief about marriage held by every major religion and by millions of people around the world and throughout history.
Wait. By every major religion. Every major religion. This, one, is a lie. Two, this is what we would like to call an argumentum ad populum. Else, an argument from authority. Else, a genetic fallacy. People in the chat. Why is my chat box broken? Again. Why does it always break? It always breaks, and I don't understand it. Okay. So, guys, in the chat, if you happen to know of a major religion that is not overtly homophobic, then please do me a favor, press H in the chat. And feel free as well to share this religion. Whatever it may be. If you can't think of one, then please press G, but I'm fairly certain that some of you can at least come up with one. At least I would hope so, given Ocean's my freaking co-host. Mark Titus, H, Buddhism. Polish Prince, H, Buddhism. David Thompson, H, Taoism. Original Spaz, H, Unitarianism. Or Echoes, H, Wicca. Cutthroat Balsarac, H, Paganism. Wow. What a fucking concept. It is almost as if it's not hard to find major religions that are not overtly fucking homophobic. That wasn't very difficult. That really wasn't. Oh, and most modern progressive Christians in the first place.
But one city official said these beliefs are ridiculous, horrible, hateful.
Yes, if you have a belief that says that because Allow me a moment. Growlithe, I need to roll. I must roll. Is my headphones actually gonna reach? Maybe not. Okay, you know what? Hold on. Alright. So, if I say, I have this book, okay? I like this book. If I do this, okay? Let's do this. I have this book. And this book says that I should not be gay. So you shouldn't be gay. If you believe in that kind of logic, fuck the book. I'm sorry, fuck the book. It does not matter. Because, at the end of the day, if your book that you are following about how you should personally act prevents you from functioning in a society with other people, I'm holding it upside down. I'm doing a drumpf. Then maybe this particular politician is right, and it's ridiculous, horrible, and hateful. The actual belief is horrible and hateful in its own, but it's ridiculous because I can't talk to you about that belief. I can't talk with you about that because this book is going to be an authority piece. And it's impossible for me to have a conversation with you about something if it happens to be in this book because you're going to go, no, that's wrong. Because my book says it. It doesn't fucking matter that your book says it. Arguments from authority are fallacies. Stop it. Get some help.
Another official said that to defend traditional marriage is the same as defending racist Jim Crow laws.
Yes, and there's a reason for that. This is not hard to understand. Let me explain. There's a reason that statement functions. If you defend traditional marriage because it's traditional, because it's tradition, it is the same as defending Jim Crow laws on the basis that they are tradition. Therefore, they must be defended. It's the same concept. There is no difference. This is what we call an argument from antiquity, or the appeal to antiquity fallacy. What you consider traditional marriage, trying to defend that and then using that as a reason to exclude another person is no different than arguing that Jim Crow laws are traditional and then using that to argue in favor of segregation.
Even the mayor weighed in, criticizing Steve for his Catholic view on marriage. Unless they stopped holding to those ridiculous beliefs, Steve and his family were officially banned from the market, even though they did nothing wrong.
Has nothing to do with holding on to your beliefs. It has everything to do with running a business in an exclusionary fashion. By running a business in an exclusionary fashion, you are in violation of laws that existed probably longer than Steve.
Steve and his family welcome everyone to their farm and sell their fruit to anyone, no matter who they are. In fact, the Tennis family farm is in another town, miles from the East Lansing city limits.
Okay.
Think about that. If you don't believe the right things according to city officials, you shouldn't be allowed to earn a living.
That's not what is being said. It has nothing to do with your belief. It has nothing to do with believing the right things. It has everything to do with utilizing your business that you want to sell from in the city in a way that is exclusionary, which goes against the city's laws. It goes against the laws you agreed to in order to actually participate in the capitalist market of your city. You had to agree to those things. Now, granted, from what I've understood, Steve is still allowed to sell. And I would not necessarily say he should not be allowed to sell. What I am saying, though, is that the framing of this is fucked up. My personal take is that he should not be allowed to hold any marriages on his orchard at all. Nobody should be allowed to use his orchard for marriages if he's not going to let everybody do that. That part should be completely nixed out of his business if that's going to be exclusionary. That solves all the problems right there. You can keep your beliefs. You can be a bigot and run a business. If I don't know you're a bigot, if I'm going to a local like burger joint and I don't know that you're a bigot, chances are I'll never know you're a bigot when you sell me that burger, because while the grease from that burger is pulling on my lap, I neither know nor care. But the minute you start actively denying people of minority groups from buying your grease bomb burger, I now know that you are a bigot, and now I don't buy from you anymore. As an example, Chick-fil-A recently, as in a year ago, or at least I think it was a year ago, something like that. No, it was like 6 or 8 months ago, said they would stop donating to anti-trans funds. And so I started eating at Chick-fil-A again because, hey, you guys are doing a good thing again. Fuck it. I can go get a good chicken sandwich. And then, of course, here recently, they started doing the same shit again, and they are supporting Blue Lives Matter and firing people for saying Black Lives Matter. Okay, I guess I'm not buying your fucking bigot chicken sandwich again. I don't have a reason to anymore, because you guys decided to be jerkwads. Had you not decided to politically put your foot in your mouth, I would have never known. But then when you actually do something, suddenly, I know.
Now, if that seems unfair to you, like it flies in the face of the Constitution unfair, you're not alone. Steve thought so too. He sued the city of East Lansing and asked to be protected from the city's unjust actions. It took years, and the city fought back. Along the way, a judge temporarily allowed the Dennis's family farm to return to the East Lansing Farmers Market. As one of Steve's advocates at Alliance Defending Freedom put it, all Americans should be free to live and speak according to their deeply held religious beliefs without fear of unjust government punishment.
Yes, you are right, but is that what's actually happening right now? From what I've been able to read, no. Because it's not just his beliefs, it's him actively preventing people from using his farm because they're gay, in a way that he lets other people use his farm. This is no different than not selling apples to somebody because they're gay. If you do that, you probably shouldn't be operating a business in the United States. Please go to a country that probably more accurately aligns with your views. Like, I don't know, Iran.
City officials in East Lansing somehow forgot this. Hopefully, the court will enter a final ruling that reminds them of this obvious truth.
Obvious truth. And of course, they're sitting here with the crossed arms and everything. All right, so I know I mentioned, that's just so you guys know, that's an appeal to common sense. And common sense, at the end of the day, is just your set of stacked up prejudices. It's not actually common amongst people. We just call it common sense. It's a misnomer. But if you're going to sell in East Lansing, you have to abide by East Lansing's laws. Doesn't matter where you happen to be in the proximity. If you fall within the legal jurisdiction of East Lansing, you kind of have to follow those laws. That's where you are. But, okay. Let's look at the comments section for this one. After some actual research, a few mistakes were made. 1, it was not a message, it was a public post. That's kind of important. 2, the post didn't just state his beliefs, it referred to the fact that he refused to hold gay marriages at his farm, but straight marriages were often held. Interesting. Next post, stop trying to victimize yourself for hurting other people. Your religion's not an excuse to dehumanize someone else. I have nothing to say about that. I agree with that one. To Josh Reed here, I love how they ignore the basic implications of believing that one man and one woman are only the ones entitled to marriage. It's a lot like saying marriage is only between white people and claiming it's no big deal. It's the exact same logic. Oh no, I'm being shunned for my beliefs because I shunned people for their beliefs. I must be in the right here. Freedom of speech does not mean you can hate minorities and not get punished. So they're punishing him for being homophobic. Nah, sounds good. Okay. Trinidad 1, he didn't just say he disliked it. He said he refused to hold same-sex weddings at his orchard despite offering the same service to opposite-sex couples, so it's not just stating a belief, it is using the belief as an excuse to discriminate. 2, tons of states have varying degrees of anti-discrimination laws. And as the farmer's market is a state-sponsored market, you need to abide by those anti-discrimination laws if you want to take advantage of that state service. 3, nobody shut down the business. The family continues to be free to sell their produce and hold weddings at their orchard. They just aren't allowed to take advantage of the state-sponsored event while breaking the state's anti-discrimination laws. So right at the beginning, it's a deception. Yeah, they could literally just sell their shit at their home if they wanted to. They'd have to get a license for that specifically, but you can't take advantage of the state-sponsored space while ignoring their laws. If you still have doubts, the Alliance Defending Freedom is defined by the Sovereign Party Law Center as an anti-LGBT hate group, which should tell you all you need to know about how willing they are to put out the whole truth. Fun stuff. Fun stuff. I have a feeling that this problem went deeper than some Facebook post. I get this as an advertisement, and I started realizing I'm a lesbian. You know, a video is really trustworthy when they leave out information and have zero sources in the description so no people can look and see if there's bias. Yeah, the only reason you guys aren't going to see sources in the description for this one is because it's a live stream. But on my edited videos, I generally have that shit. About that Catholic point at 240, didn't the Pope say he's okay with gay marriage? Discriminating against a protected group is illegal. He didn't share his beliefs. He literally admitted to discriminating against a protected group. So in essence, he dry snitched on himself. Imagine that. So, I got one more video to get into. I'm going to take a very quick break before we get into that video. But what do you guys think so far? Live streams are the only vids exempt from sourcing your videos, Law of the Skeptic. And it's the one thing that I'm personally okay with not sourcing, because if I'm going to have my sources up during the video itself, there they are. But in an edited video where I have infinite time, then yeah, all the sources are going to be in the description. That's generally my rule. Ah. That feels a little better. Now, isn't that fun? Isn't it fun to look into really dumb shit stuff? Because, oh, we got one more. We got one more bit of dumb shit things. And this one's going to be real fun. But before we get into that, we should probably get into Super Chats. Okay? All Super Chats. First one, $2, Lee Bryant. This is a shameless plug for my subreddit, r/anti-NIFB. The next one, from Real Luck. $2, they've got issues, but have you had a bean pie? Gabu, for $5, has donated, and there is no context. Yay. Jake 4D has super chatted $2. Anti-fascists of the world unite for Part 2 World War II. And that is all of the super chats that we have gotten today, which, yeah, is kind of depressing. I would like more of those. It would be super helpful, but that's fine. Point being, we are going to get into one more video after I am back. So I'm going to do that real quick, and then we will return. Alrighty, so we should be back. Before we officially get into the last video of the night, I want to read off super chats that have come in while I've been gone. First one is from, oh wow, was I really gone 24 minutes? Holy shit. I am sorry about that, guys. Quest has super chatted 5,001. Better add to the Stop Service from Getting Depressed Fund. Jake4D has super chatted $2. More of those. D Dolphe has super chatted $14.99. I live in a very conservative county, and things that happen around here always get spun to where it's a minority group's fault. So unfortunately, this kind of bigoted, induced stupid is nothing new. And then I can agree with that. I live in a county where I'm seeing a lot of that, especially on Facebook. And then Dren Hadamada has super chatted $20. Cirrus, what do you need to solve the tech problem from earlier with the cables and monitors? I think it's a problem that we're already just going to be solving by swapping monitors around. We had to pick up 2 new monitors because Aaron has been working with 720p monitors, but they're 32-inch, so 720p blown up large ends up looking really blurry, which isn't really good for the eyes. So we picked up 2 new cheap monitors in order to facilitate fixing that, but the wire and cabling issues came up in that her PC does not have the right cable for the monitor. But I have a 1080p monitor that we're going to be swapping around that will be fixing that, I believe. Yes, honey?
I'm about to con you, but I need you to mute.
You're about to con me? I mean, okay, one sec.
Who's the hide your screen?
Okay. Hello. Alright. Now shoo, so I can do rest of stream. After I
What is Strem?
pat belly.
What is Strem?
Strem is on this, why the Supreme Court's LGBTQ ruling is immoral, where the Supreme Court said that you cannot fire someone for being LGBTQ. That's apparently immoral. But we're going to get into that on today's episode of Dragon Ball Z. Hun, I'm going to do my episode now. I love you.
I needed to like try to process that.
You needed to stare and process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you seen your camera?
Yeah.
No, honey, look. Why does this side look like it's shrouded in darkness and mystery?
Because that's where the chat's supposed to be when it's not broken. But the chat's been broken.
Oh.
Like that. There it is.
I also did the
There's the chat.
I was like, honey, your camera is broken. We will buy new one.
No, camera is fine.
Camera is fine. Okay, I was very confused.
Yeah.
I also did the
Okay. Okay. Sir, this looks like the guy who delivered my pizza. Well, it turns out that you didn't give me a fucking tip, so here we are. Anyway, sorry, continuing on. So, today, our final thing we are getting into is this dude. Michael Moreno. Why the Supreme Court's LGBTQ ruling is immortal. So, let's first go over what the Supreme Court's ruling was. The Supreme Court ruled that you cannot discriminate against an LGBTQ person when it comes to hiring them on a job. Okay? Okay. Let's watch. Let's see.
On Monday, June 15th, the Supreme Court ruled in a 6-3 decision that employers are legally prohibited from firing employees for being homosexual or transgender, keeping in line with other anti-discrimination laws associated with the Civil Rights Act, like outlawing workplace discrimination based on race and gender. Now, I know this is going to be a hot take, and I'm probably going to lose some subscribers for saying it, but these laws are bad. They shouldn't exist. Let me explain. First, let me make it clear that I'm no fan of discrimination. I think that employers who want to hire and fire based on irrelevant personal characteristics are wrong. I don't think they should do it. That being said, what people should do and what they should be allowed to do are not the same thing. For example...
Oh, this is going to be one of those fucking legalese things. Okay, so, look, here's what happens. If, I'll just explain this really fucking quickly. If you, as an employer, or this is an employer issue, if you are allowed to run a business in a country, you, as an employer, will be subject to the laws of that country. Plain and simple. If you, as a business in that country, do something against the law in that country, then you kind of have to deal with that shit. Now, let me explain something for Mr. Michael Moreno here. There's a difference between a normative world and the real world. In a normative world, a world that we should be striving for, a better world, an idealistic one would even say a utopian world, nobody would discriminate on these factors. Nobody would. But it turns out that people do. Now let's explain the ideal situation for laws to work. In an ideal world, we wouldn't need laws at all. Because in an ideal world, nobody would infringe on anybody else. But that's not what happens. So currently, we live in a world where, while we may not want laws that infringe on our liberties, we do have to have laws that prevent you from infringing on other people's liberties. Now, I do understand that there's a difference between positive and negative rights, and I believe, I have not watched this video yet, but I believe he's probably going to get into that. Just because that's a factor here. So let's continue.
Well, I don't think people should watch porn. I think it's degenerative, but they should still...
I don't think people should watch porn. It's degenerate. Okay, dude. Okay, well, I hate to tell you this. Nobody gives a fuck what you think is degenerate. Nobody. And that's almost a fucking dog whistle at this point.
Still be allowed to, because it's their life and they're not harming me. So why should I?
There's the trick though. It is your life, and you are not harming somebody else. Cool. Agreed. 110%. Good. We got it. Excellent. Now, here's the question. Is there potentially a difference in who is getting harmed when you tell somebody who's LGBTQ that you will not hire them because of that? Is there a difference? Oh, the difference is that you actually are hurting somebody. Well, I'm sorry. I completely forgot that these situations were entirely fucking different.
I have a say. I don't think people should drink alcohol or smoke weed or eat junk food. But again, they're not harming me and it's their life. So
That's kind of the qualifying thing, dude.
Don't get a say. Now, does this mean that I'm complacent with immorality? That I just let it happen without saying anything? No, I try to show people why these things are bad and help them stop doing it.
Then please show me why pornography is bad. And if your argument is going to be, well, you can become addicted to it, you can become addicted to anything. The fact that you can become addicted to it is not the problem. Porn addiction is a thing that needs to be taken care of and needs to be handled on a serious level, but that's not the issue. If you're going to say porn is bad because you should be having sex with real people, what about people who don't actually have that ability? What about people who don't have that want? They happen to be asexual and sex repulsed, but they still have a somewhat of a libido. They still want to just ejaculate. Porn is an option for them. They don't want to deal with any real-life person, and why should you force them to be subjected to have to do that? But let's continue.
I know that at the end of the day, it's their choice because it's their life. And while business owners probably shouldn't discriminate, they absolutely should be allowed to because it's...
Why, though? Wait, but every single thing you've said, every single thing you have given as a reason thus far has been an example of something that does not harm someone else, and that if a regulation was put up, it would be stripping people of their rights. But stripping a business, which is not a person, of the right to discriminate against minority groups, that does not hurt anybody. That doesn't hurt anyone at all. The only person it hurts is in this normative utopian world that you think exists in your mind. It might hurt people in that world where it's taking away from somebody's negative rights. That's not how this works, though. We don't exist in a normative world. We exist in reality. I made a point earlier about the difference between these two things, and I don't think I actually ended up saying the point. So let me explain the point clearly here. In a normative world, in an ideal world, we wouldn't have to have these laws, but we don't exist in a normative world. We don't exist in an ideal world. So we end up having to have these laws so that disenfranchised people do in fact have the ability to navigate the world in a way that benefits them and does not hurt other people, as opposed to is rigged against them. Because we don't live in an ideal world. We can work on constructing an ideal world, but we don't live in one. So we don't legislate as if we lived in one. What Michael Moreno is explaining here is that we should enact policy as if we lived in this normative world, but we don't. That's not a thing that we actually exist in.
It's their business. You should be allowed to do whatever you want with your business for whatever reason you have. You're not obligated to hire anyone, and no one is entitled to work for you. What you do with your own life and why is entirely up to you.
Yes, but do you not see the difference between what you do and your own life being up to you and being a business in a position to provide wages to the general populace and your ability to actually act on that? Do you not see a difference there? Do you not see do you not see the dichotomy here? These are not the same things, but you're equivocating them as if they are.
This is the principle of liberty, that all people should be allowed to follow their own pursuits, which logically necessitates that they cannot use that ability to take it away from other people, since it...
Yes, exactly, which is why a business should not be able to use their own liberty to pursue their own ends to take away from the ability for a minority group to be hireable. Yes, you're right. You're this close to the conclusion. But you're fucking wrong.
It applies to all people. This is why people have freedom of speech. It's why they have freedom of religion, which is essentially freedom of morality.
What? What? Freedom of religion is not essentially freedom of morality. No! What the fuck? Morality exists independent of religion. There are religions that bake morality into its structure, but morality, the concept, is not religious. If you try to argue that morality, the concept, is religious, then you have to make the argument afterwards that religion has a monopoly on morality, which is something that there are especially monotheists who have been attempting to argue for ages. Religion does not have a monopoly on morality, and freedom of religion is not freedom of morality. Because if it were freedom of morality, then you wouldn't have to agree to the objective standards of morality, or at least the attempts to, that get encoded into laws. You could say that, well, I'm a Muslim, so I get to discriminate against non-Muslims. I get to tell other people they can't eat pork. Or, I'm a Christian, I get to discriminate against other non-Christians by saying that they can't get married in my fucking orchard. That's not how this works. Your individual morality is yours, but it begins with you and ends at somebody else's nose. And usually, when that happens, legislation is enacted in order to make sure that you do not step over that line and step on that person's nose.
People are allowed to say things that you don't agree with, believe in gods that you don't think exist, hold values that you don't. Just because you think something is wrong doesn't mean you get to force that on someone else. Your opinion, no matter how correct it might be, does not take precedence over human rights. There's no reason why you or me or anyone else should have any say on what someone else does with their own life. And
Correct. So let me explain this in a way that hopefully, ideally, maybe makes sense. Maybe. Just maybe. The statement, and we'll reiterate it one more time.
Or me or anyone else should have any say on what someone else does with their own life.
So, you should not have any say on what someone else does in their own life. I agree. Now, let's say that you are an employer or a person in a position of power, and you have access to the things someone else needs to live. Here in a capitalist society, that would be wages. You are the gatekeeper between this potential proletariat worker and the ability to actually be part of that working class, integrate them thoroughly into that working class, and be a contributing member of society. You are the gatekeeper of here because you are the capitalist. You have the ability to gatekeep this very important thing that somebody needs to live. Let's say this person's 18 years old, got kicked out of their house, probably because they're LGBTQ, because that still happens a fucking lot. Let's pretend that you are the gatekeeper, and you get to tell them that actually, because you're gay, you don't get to get paid. You don't get to have a wage. Now, let's think about this really, really hard. The statement...
You or me or anyone else should have any say on what someone else does with their own life.
Does this not mean that the capitalist, the CEO, the owner of the business that has the ability to hire, now can have a say in what another person can or cannot do with their life? I would hire you if you just weren't gay. Now you're gonna start somebody down the path of trying desperately not to be gay so that they can fucking eat. So that they can go and get food. So that they can get wages, the meager fucking $7.15 you're willing to pay them at your burger flipping shit shop. For them to be able to get these wages, they've got to try to find some way to not be gay now. Are they going to come to you next month and say, let's say that the first conversation goes like this. Sir, I would very much like to work at your establishment. I think that it would be a fine place, and I think I would be an excellent addition to the staff. Well, you see, son, I would love to take you, but my religion, right here, hold on, I gotta pull it right out my ass, one sec. My religion says right here that if you're gay, go away. Son, are you gay? Well, sir, I don't actually think that's any of your business, but if you have to know, I kind of do have a husband. And actually, all things considered, he's actually in the hospital right now, and I desperately need employment. I need to be able to afford insurance. I need to be able to afford being able to put food on the table. He originally was the breadwinner, but I have to take that now because he's sick. Look, I feel for you, son. I really do, but I just can't help you. If you're gay, you gotta go away. That's what the good God book says. And I hit the table. Turns out I live and drink stupid. Well, if that's the case. Okay, so now a month takes place, right? A month has happened. A month has passed. Guy comes in again. He submitted his resume again. He's passed his 30 days. Sometimes it's 90. Sir, I've been reading your book. I'm totally not holding it upside down. I've been reading your book. And, I've divorced my husband, and I have decided that I do not wish to be gay anymore. Now, this is the part where I break the fourth wall and talk to the audience and tell them that actually he is still dating his husband, but he's legally divorced his husband because he wants to be able to get this job because this job happens to have the insurance he needs to protect his partner, to save his life. Back to the play. So, could I potentially be employed at your establishment? Well, let's see that book, son. Let's see that book. Okay, let's see. Yep, it looks like mine. It's bent like mine. You might have even stole this one from me. That's weird. Well, considering that my ancestors did steal this land, I guess that's holding in principle. You're hired. You ain't gay no more. You learned your lesson. Come on. Let's get you in the back and get you learning how to flip some meat. Oh, thank you. That was easy. Okay, now, the employer in this particular scenario had the ability to determine whether or not another citizen is allowed to get wages. Now, they already have this ability because they're employers, but by having that bar of gay, this employee, who I'm using a reductio ad absurdum, I am using a perfect storm scenario, this employee had to literally LARP being straight in order to get a job. Now, and this job might be the only one in their region that actually has the insurance that he can actually use to help his loved one. You see how we just kind of coupled those things together there? Fun. Now, this guy was not able to help his loved one as he existed. He had to LARP someone else completely, lie to his employer in order to get a job. This is the scenario that people found themselves in for years. Let's run a fun history lesson. Let's run a fun history lesson here. Do you know the amount of cases in the last 8 years with headlines like this? Father wants to marry son. Now, but when you read the article, because you look at the headlines and you're just like, it's incest, it looks like the shit in my book, it looks like Adam and Eve, it's bad, it's wrong. But when you actually look at the article in question, it wasn't father trying to marry their biological son. It was, in fact, one gay gentleman who could not actually have his partner benefit from marriage, getting the legal benefits of marriage, being able to share health insurance, being able to have you as a first person that is allowed to come into a hospital room. So he ended up adopting his partner because that was the only way to extend those liberties, extend those privileges that are benefited to married couples to his partner, because marriage was not legal. So, this article, you read it, disgust, and then you read it more and you go, wait, why did he have to adopt somebody he was dating? And then you realize that they were adopting because that was the only way to functionally get the same benefits as marriage, before marriage became legal in the United States. At least gay marriage became legal in the United States. Do you know how many articles of those I read years ago? At least 3, and that's when I wasn't looking for them. It's also when I didn't care. I didn't run this channel yet, so I didn't care. I had no reason to care. It was more than 3 years ago. It was more like 5 years ago. Now I have a reason to care. Now articles like that, when I see that, it disgusts me because I know that that existed because of a system that didn't allow people to exist as they otherwise would want to. Now, granted, there's a smaller issue where polyamorous folk are not able to have these marriage liberties either, but I am not going to try to put myself in that same category. I'm just not. So, what these people ended up having to do is they had to try to sever the legally binding statement that said that they were father and son, per the state, in order to get married afterwards, which led to such fun headlines as "Father wants to marry son," when that's not what was fucking happening. But when you read the articles, you see that stuff. And I don't want to pull one up right now, but if you guys want to look and just link it in the chat, there are enough of them. There were at least 3 that I found, again, 3 to 5 years ago. But this was stuff that happened in the United States because people were not able to actually enjoy the benefits of marriage. This is an environment that also discriminated against people for being gay in the employment area. So what do you do when you want to have the civil liberties afforded by marriage, and you happen to be gay, and you need to save your partner who's currently on a deathbed? You need insurance to save their life, and the employer here is the only one that can do it for you. Again, this is reductio ad absurdum. So, we go back to the skit. Yeah, I'm just sitting here flipping burgers, and oh, hello, Earl. How are you doing today? Oh, hey, Tom. So I hate to interject. I hate to get in here, but the boss said something about you being gay once before, but you ain't no more. Oh, yeah, that's just. I don't want to talk about it, but, you know. And I hate to be nosy, but I heard on the grapevine that you just adopted? You just adopted a son? Oh, yes, technically. And hang on a second. But what's the name of your son? Oh, his name was Johnny Y. Now, boss said that was also he gave me this sob story from you, and that's the same name as your late husband, wasn't it? Isn't that a bit weird for you? Look, I just don't want to talk about it anymore. Okay, can I just work? Yeah, I guess. Okay, so what has happened in this scenario? In order to keep the benefits of marriage, people have to reuse this older system of circumventing that legal loop, of having to adopt, so that they can go back into the closet and hide, but still provide that insurance, still provide those legal benefits, in this case, to save a partner's life. Now, again, and yeah, you can adopt people that are the same age as you. This is a thing that people had to do for years before marriage licenses would be given to gay couples. The scenario that I just gave you is not outside the realm of possibility, because if you are allowed to legally discriminate, then people have incentive to do everything in their power to hide their sexuality. And especially in cases where they already have a partner, they'll have to do things like go through a messy divorce process and then find other legal ways of providing their insurance. It's a shitty situation. It's not ideal, but it is the scenario that you end up expecting when realities, like the one that Michael Moreno wants to impose, end up being the case.
And it takes a profound amount of arrogance to think otherwise. But Michael, it's not just their life, other people are involved. Sure, technically other people are involved to the same degree that other people are involved when a girl refuses to date someone. That doesn't mean that she's violating their liberty. Other people are involved insofar as she is protecting her rights from other people.
So, if a girl doesn't want to date you and she's protecting her rights, if she's protecting her rights by not dating someone, then I would agree this is because she is an autonomous individual who has personal rights of association. Businesses are not autonomous individuals, and they do not enjoy the same liberties as autonomous individuals, nor should they.
They weren't entitled to a relationship with her to begin with, and the same applies to businesses. The only time involvement matters is when there's harm. If they're not harming you, you don't get a say. But Michael, they're harming people when they discriminate against them. No, they're not. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of the difference between not helping someone and harming them. The lack of a positive is not a negative.
Yes, because positive liberty is the possession or capacity to act upon one's free will, as opposed to a negative liberty, which is the freedom from external restraint on one's actions. This is true for individuals. Unfortunately, Michael Moreno is making the unfortunate indistinction, not distinct. Wow, cannot speak. I cannot speak. Unfortunately, what Michael is doing here is treating corporations, treating businesses like individuals. And moreover, he's playing the woe is me card for businesses that have all the power in this situation. Currently, right now, if you're unemployed, when it comes to another business and you're trying to get employed there, you don't have any power. You don't. But Michael's upset that a little bit of power was given to the workers. Now, what do we call people who get upset when a little bit of power is given to workers? I'm sure that we had some, like, union busty name for them.
Lack of +1 is not -1, it's just 0. And choosing not to help someone is not harming them, it's neutral. If I don't give money to a homeless person, that's not the same as me taking money from them. And so if I don't hire someone, I'm simply choosing not to help them. I'm not harming them, and I'm not violating their liberty.
If you are choosing not to hire someone because they are a minority, something that they do not have any ability to change, you may be the only business that they actually can apply to within their area. Let's say that everything in their area requires 2 to 3 years experience, but you happen to own the only fast food joint. It's a really unfortunate scenario, but it's not outside what has happened in the past before. When you control that job, that ability for them to get wages, it's not just not helping them to maliciously discriminate against them. It is literally, in the words of what I said, malicious discrimination. I want to see if there's any actual substance to this video besides a conflation of individuals and businesses, and if there's any meat on it besides businesses should act like individuals and we should be allowed to discriminate because hate am the good, pornography am the degeneracy.
Now you might respond by saying, okay, but what about when you fire them? You're putting them in a worse position than they were before, since they had a job and now they don't. So you've harmed them. Also not the case. Giving a positive and then taking it away is still not negative, it's neutral. If I let a homeless person stay in my house and then change my mind and kick them out, I haven't harmed them. They were already homeless to begin with. I've simply neutralized the situation. Sure.
Sit on that one. Sit on that one. Just for a second. Just for a sec. All right. Now, let's consider a scenario. I happen to have one plate and one fork that I will use as props for this conversation. Okay. According to Michael Moreno's logic, if I am starving and you have the ability to give me food, and you hand me this plate, I need to put food on it. There we go. You hand me this plate with some delicious food. I know, finally, some good fucking food. And I grab a fork that you have, of course, lent to me as well. And I go to take this first bite. I haven't eaten in a week, by the way. You're being very gracious. Thank you. And then you steal it. I would have dropped it or done something more dramatic, but it's a ceramic plate and a glass bottle. I just... What? Why did you do that to me? I was going to eat that. Well, you see, I had given you a food, and then I took it away before you had a chance to eat it. So actually, your situation is exactly identical to the one you were in before. I have actually not harmed you at all. Okay, so we're just ignoring the mental harm that came from you swiping away something, from you carried on as sticking me. We're ignoring that. You guys want me to eat the Tabasco? Is that... Anyway. We're ignoring the mental harm that you just subjected me to. That harm apparently doesn't exist in Michael Moreno's world. We're completely ignoring that mental harm. This means that any job... let's just say I was previously jobless. And then I got a position, and I worked at it for 30 years, I provided so much to my company, and then the company fires me in a layoff spree afterwards because, we just gotta hire a new guy who can do the exact same shit because he had 8 years of college, but we really don't want to pay your pension, so we're gonna cut you out and bring this guy in at new higher wages. When you do this, you are in fact engaging in harm. This is not just a mathematical +1, -1 theorem thing where everything balances out, everything's a zero-sum game, nobody wins, nobody loses. There is harm in doing that. When you bring a homeless person into your house, if they have not done anything at all, and then you just kick them out after 2-3 hours, a couple days... Yes, it should be your right to do that in the case of the homeless person, because again, we're talking about individuals, not businesses. This is the conflation that Michael is engaging in. By saying you can have a permanent home here, for instance, or you have a home here contingent on you obeying certain rules, and then, regardless of that verbal agreement, you kick them out of the house, you are engaging in harm. You are completely uprooting what somebody has established as safe previously. You've inadvertently caused damage to this person. But you think that because in the world of the theoretical everything exists in a series of +1s, -1s, and zeros, that nothing bad has actually happened. That's not how the world works. At all. You're ignoring all of the nuance of the situation and trying to boil it down to a base mathematical theorem. I'm sorry, but reality is more convoluted than that.
Sure, the act of neutralizing the situation, of going from 1 to 0, required negation, but the overall scale is still not in the negatives. If my parents are paying for my bills and then suddenly they stop, they haven't harmed me. They've just stopped helping me.
Okay, so let's say that your parents are paying your bills because you are unemployable for some reason. Let's say your parents are paying your bills because in this reality, the businesses around you decided they didn't want to hire you because you happen to be gay. So your parents are paying your bills. And then one day, your parents just decide they don't want to. Let's say your dad was on the verge of not wanting to, but your mom convinced him to, and then your dad explained his situation to a friend at work, and that friend is a fucking homophobic asshole, and that friend just goes, "You know, Earl, your son, he's gay, right?" Yeah, Tom, why? It doesn't matter. Anyway, don't you support him? Why doesn't he just get a job? You know, I've been saying that to Martha for a while, but I do not want to get her angry or anything, and we love our son. We're gonna support him. It's fine. Yes, but aren't you enabling him? Like, because you're paying his bills, what incentive does he have to actually go out and get a job? Aside to the audience, let's completely ignore the fact that he's tried. He's fucking tried hard. But the business said he couldn't. Wouldn't it incentivize him to grow and improve as an individual if you cut him off? That seems like that would be the right thing to do. And I know you're the parent. I don't want to tell you how to parent your children, but at the end of the day, it seems like that would probably be the best thing to do. It seems like he would grow into a better person if you did that. You know, I'm going to talk to Martha about that tonight. That sounds reasonable. Thanks. Now, in this scenario, the parent is actively harming the child because they are cutting the child off when the child didn't do anything. Nothing changed. And the child could still be desperately trying to get a job, doing everything in their power. But then when you cut this away from them and then potentially subject them to homelessness, but in the magical world of Michael Moreno, none of those considerations matter. None of that mattered whatsoever. None of that extra nuance, none of it happened. Also, hello, Hylia. How are you doing, boy? He has decided that he wants to be here, which is fine. Hi, Hylia. And no, I don't think any court would agree with Moreno's assertion. I don't think there's a reason to go into more of his video. I don't. If you got, you know what? I'm going to drop his video in the chat. And if you guys find something that is worth me going over more after this stream, then message me in Discord and I will gladly dedicate a different video to it. But from what it seems, he's existing in an idealistic world, and that idealistic world can boil everything down to simple math, when that's not how the real world works. This is a very sheltered and privileged position. I'm not saying he is sheltered and privileged, but this is the type of conversation I would expect from someone who is. So I think that's going to be that. That is it. That is as far as I'm going today with all this fun stuff. If you guys find something that I need to take care of, let me know. Elsewise, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the Super Chats, chat with you guys for a couple of minutes, and then I think it'll be time to end stream. So, from Elizabeth Rosalind Bain, $5. Sorry, this is all I can give right now. Hope it helps. Hey, every little bit helps. Thank you very much for that. What the Craft is super chat at $5. Why do these people keep conflating holding beliefs with acting on those beliefs? Those are two different things. You know, it's funny that I can believe that the haircut job that certain nobles, bourgeoisie, CEOs have been getting from their local barbers have been inadequate. But acting on any such belief would give them a very different haircut than they actually consented to. And then I do not see any other super chats besides that one. Which is... Philip Gabriel, this is the kind of logic from somebody who's never struggled. Like, I've been homeless before. It's not fun. It is not fun. And yes, I am enjoying Hylia. Hylia is a good bean. He deserves all the pets and all the love. Hey, Hylia. Hey, boy. Sir, is our empathy and morality genetic or social? I don't think they're genetic. I think they're social. The ideas of empathy are as different as the people who have those ideas. That doesn't scream genealogy to me. Hey, Hylia, you're gonna go to the vet soon. You're gonna go to the vet soon, boy. We got him scheduled to go to the vet Monday morning because he's been losing some hair. We don't quite know why, but we're gonna get him. We're gonna get him taken care of because he's a good boy. He's a good boy and he deserves to live a good long life. We're gonna make sure that happens, okay, boy? He says hello. We're trying to. Hi, Leah. Hi, buddy. Beep. Hey, Ilea. He's just sitting here on my desk. He's a good bean. How's it going, Cindy Mitchell? Dren, if you want to try to get a Cirrus animated thing from the skits, then you may have just convinced me to do more skits. Because they're all improv shit. I don't think of this shit before I actually do the streams, but I could put more work into them if you guys are going to end up animating them. Sir, I think you'll ever take on William Lane Craig? It depends. I generally don't like dealing with sophists, but I mean, eventually. If you guys want more skits, I'm gonna have to practice my voices better. It's gonna take some time. Have I not had my keyboard stepped on? So he's actually been a good bean, and he's sitting right next to my keyboard, like literally. There's this. Hold on, there he is. He's literally right next to the keyboard, but he's not on it. Also, mousepad. But you know, empathy is genetic application. Empathy is genetic application of it is social. I can understand that. Like, the ability to empathize. Actually, no, that one is true. The ability to empathize properly is genetic because we have dissociative identity disorders, which are not genetic in the sense that you get born with them as much, though that can happen, but in the sense that they are biological. That's a thing. Just like depression is biological. But the ability to exercise it is certainly societal. I could actually agree with that one. Growlithe, are you okay? Growlithe. She was having a nightmare. Do you think that we're all going to die in 10, 20, or 100 years because of climate change? I don't know. I honestly do not know. I know that certain areas of the world slowly become uninhabitable by their local fauna as a result of climate change. Cindy. Oh! I know who you are, Cindy Mitchell. The Robert Cindy system, right? I don't know the full name of the system. I don't think we've had a conversation about that one, but I believe that's who I'm speaking to, correct? If that's the case, then I know. Okay, yeah. I know who you are. Aha! We've had a few conversations about DID. I'm gonna give this bean some hugs and love. Hey, buddy, come here. Yeah, see, this has been happening. This is why he's going to the vet on Monday. We got to figure out what's going on here, because that's frightening. We're gonna get you to the vet, okay? You're going Monday. We're gonna get you taken care of. This happened to Gigi before, and it was because she had an allergy to fleas, and then that completely cleared up once we got rid of her fleas. But I don't know what's going on with this guy. You got to take him in. See what's going on. You need to look better, hon. We gotta get you looking healthy. He keeps hitting me in the face with his tail. Doop. 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 I feel like this is a good, like, chill way to end a stream, right? Just cat going doop. Doop. Hey, boy. Okay. Let's thank you guys for hopping out, watching the stream. I'm going to hop out and take care of some errands, and then take care of everything else. And on Monday, this dude and Yumi's going into the vet for a checkup, and this dude is going in to get taken care of. Adit Slayer says, are you and Vosh still friends? So the answer to that is yes, technically. We are friends in the sense that there's no animosity between us, and we will still talk friendly to one another. But we don't actually talk all that often. I wish we would talk more, but Vosh is generally pretty busy and only talks during certain times. But no, the last time we talked was right after the channel got stolen. And that was... I mean, it was a fun chat, but not about a fun subject, because the channel getting taken kind of blew. Also, Hailey, are you okay? You're just in the crook of my arm. Doing alright? Bosch mentioned Cirrus on the stream today? Oh, really? I'm curious. What did he say? I didn't see his stream today. Was it about the 1350 stream? Hey. Yeah, no, I know if I pop up into Vosh's stream, if I pop up on his streams at all, we chat on there and he's fine. So, I'd say we're still friends, though we don't talk as much as I would like. Ooh. Hi, hun. Perhaps do a streamception and find out? Well, not right now. I don't want to scope through his whole stream right now. I want to go. I want to go do other things. But I did want to thank you all for coming out. Everybody who did Super Chat donations and PayPal donations, thank you very much for that. Oh, God, speaking of donations, I just realized I haven't sent the other fundraiser to Seattle yet. So I'm going to get on that. Check Twitter for receipts here in the next couple days when I actually get that sent through. I have completely forgot that I needed to do that. Don't crack your neck like that. It's bad for you. Oh, sorry. I'll just... anyway. Real luck. So I've talked to somebody who talked to somebody who talked to ContraPoints. God damn it.